by a show of hands, how many of you voted in this past election? Good. I voted as well, and I noticed a few familiar names on the ballot. One of these names was California Senator Dianne Feinstein, who won her 6th term in this past election. According to Congress.gov, she began our senator in 1992, so she's been in Congress for 26 years. That is a long time, more than most of us in this room have been alive. I believe our representatives and senators should have term limits imposed on them. As of right now, Congress members can serve an unlimited number of terms. Term limits are important in allowing new people in to lead our country. We need to restructure Congress more frequently to allow new ideas to prosper in our lawmaking system. Nancy Pelosi, a California District 12 representative in the House, has been in the House for the past 31 years, according to LATimes.com. Today, House Democrats will vote to choose its leadership, and if Pelosi gets the majority vote, then all House representatives will again vote on January 3rd to actually see if she becomes the House Speaker. She has already been the Speaker in the past, and it's not fair for, since she's already been the Speaker, new leadership should be able to come in and be the Speaker to see what they do with the House. Since she's already had her time as the Speaker, it's time for somebody else to come in. This wouldn't have happened if there were term limits imposed on representatives and senators. I have nothing against Nancy Pelosi, as I align myself with the Democratic Party, but we need new leadership to bring new ideas to Congress. We need to reshape Congress to make sure our representatives and senators don't have too much control over what occurs within. The opposition argues that each election is already like setting term limits. I disagree with that with this statistics I got from Statista, and the source was also Gallup. This is a poll that Gallup did nationwide, and the average approval rating of Congress was 17% between October of 2017 and October 2018. And according to the Washington Post, House incumbents meaning representatives and senators who previously had the seat when it comes to re-election. In the 2012 midterm election, 90% of the incumbents of the House were re-elected, and 91% of senators who sought re-election won. While still, the approval rating was 15% in 2012, which is similar to the average of 17%, which is today. According to OpenSecrets.org, incumbents raised a lot more money than their challengers in 2018, allowing incumbents to pay more for ads. In this past election, incumbents in the House and the Senate raised just over $1.25 billion, while the challengers raised just under $800 million, which is over a $400 million difference. Term limits are detrimental in making sure that diversity is present in Congress, diversity in ideas and people. Although imposing term limits would take a lot of effort, it is not impossible. In 1995, U.S. Term Limits v. Thornton put into law that term limits were unconstitutional. To allow term limits, our government would have to amend the Constitution, which is not an easy process. More information on the long process of having term limits can be found on termlimits.com. I advise you all to go there, as it cleanly lays out more information on why we should have term limits. It is not impossible, but it would take a lot of effort for it to happen by our lawmakers and us as private citizens. Having term limits will be better for our country. It is the best solution in allowing our representatives to change frequently, and with change brings new leadership and laws into our country. I believe 3 terms for senators, which is 18 years, and 6 terms for representatives, which is 12 years, is pretty fair for all in Congress. This will still allow incumbents to stay in office for a long time, but it still does the job and makes sure Congress gets restructured more often. Term limits were imposed on presidents, so why shouldn't they be imposed on our representatives and senators? Congress is responsible for making laws for our country, so they should be limited to their terms just like our presidents are. New ideas call for new laws. How would new ideas be introduced into Congress if many of those with seats in Congress have been there for over 20 years? Term limits would also have some part in limiting how many of our representatives and senators pass away while in office. According to Senate.gov, 301 senators passed away in the past while holding a seat in office. Most recently, U.S. Senator John McCain died this year while he was still serving as a United States Senator. If there had been term limits, he would not have died while in office since he has been a senator for over 31 years. Not only will term limits bring in new ideas into Congress more frequently, but it will actually bring in a new group of leaders who line up more with the ideals of whom they actually represent. If we do not have term limits, then the same incumbents who win all of the time will continue to stay in Congress until they die or are voted out, which is unlikely since incumbents are much more likely to be reelected again and again and again. Not allowing this is not allowing new ideas to prosper within Congress since many senators and representatives are extending the time as long as they keep getting reelected. And since we don't have term limits and representatives and senators keep on going for re-election, according to CNBC, most of the time used between representatives and senators are used campaigning to win again. This is most critical for representatives since their seat is up every 2 years, so they have to really focus on getting re-elected again in their home state. Limited terms will call for representatives working and not focusing most of their time towards winning elections. Although it may seem that none of us in this room can change anything, we can still take part in reshaping Congress. You all should sign this petition on termlimits.com. Again, they have much more on the site of what they really want to do, and they want as many signatures to get to actually bring this back to Congress as they once did in 1994. This petition is in favor of having term limits in the Senate and the House of Representatives. If you cannot do that, you should at least vote for people you have really researched about and not just vote for a candidate that you've seen most on TV. Doing so will get us closer in making sure that our future will not be overrun with a Congress full of people who have already been there for a lifetime.
Hey, Bryce, what's the compelling piece of research you did that you found?
The approval rating of Congress.
Okay. Yeah. Interestingly enough, that was one Paul Ryan was in. That was one of the choices.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, there's a lot of. I'm curious if that's sort of the trend. Always, we always think Congress is doing a crappy job.
Yeah, like I brought up, like in 2012, it was 15%, which is around 17%. So.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you very much. Thank you.